Welcome to the Plant-Free MD podcast with Dr. Anthony Chaffee, where we discuss diet and nutrition and how this affects health and chronic disease, and show you how you can use this to optimize your health and happiness, both mentally and physically. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Plant-Free MD podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Anthony Chaffee, and today I have a very special guest, someone who's become a good friend of mine, Brandon Maxey, who is going to tell us his story. Brandon, great to see you, man. How have you been?
Great to see you too. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So for people who haven't come across you, haven't heard your story yet, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm currently on dialysis and looking for a kidney transplant. Hopefully that'll be happening in March, as I have a living donor. Of course, I'm always taking backups because finding a match and finding kidneys is a difficult and interesting process, to say the least. But I was diagnosed with IgA nephropathy when I was 15, and ever since then, my kidneys have slowly been getting worse. I've tried lots of different lifestyle hacks and interventions, mostly dietary, really. So, shortly after being diagnosed, I was in college. And in college, the cafeteria food is not very good. So I was going to actually I had an Earth Fare, which is kind of like a healthy supermarket. And so from very early on in my kidney diagnosis, I was conscious about eating and lifestyle, like exercising and doing all these things. I grew up playing sports, playing soccer, golf, tennis, and continued those through college recreationally. And so I started off first with eating organic food, and that was kind of the call to action. There was just like the non-GMO and stuff like that. And then I got into yoga and meditation, became a yoga teacher and a meditation teacher, and started with the the lineage of yoga and meditation that I began with. Vegetarianism and veganism were pushed very hard. So I adapted veganism, which after a couple years led to chronic fatigue syndrome. And I remember actually my girlfriend at the time sent me to a nutritionalist and was like, "Hey, the nutritionalist was like, you need to eat some meat." She was recommending like a Western price style, and I hadn't had meat in 2 years, and I remember eating a steak. And then I woke up that night in the middle of the night with just so much energy, and I was like, "Wow, like I need a steak." And I should have taken that message a little bit more seriously, but I kept on in the yoga community, and since the veganism wasn't working, I switched to raw veganism, and that things just got worse from there. And then in 21, I ended up in the hospital. I was living down in Costa Rica, so I could actually eat a raw fruit diet. And because at this time, I had moved down there in 2018, all I could find online about kidneys was raw fruit, and how that was like helping the kidneys get all this super ultrafiltration and things like that. There wasn't any carnivore kidney talk on YouTube or like on the internet at this time. So my timing has been a little bit off, but anyway, I ended up in the hospital down in Costa Rica in 21 with severe anemia. My hemoglobin was like 1.5. The ER doctor was like, "How are you even walking?" So they checked me into the hospital. They said I couldn't leave because I was basically a risk to the community. So I was in the hospital for 5 days, and then my friend flew me back to the States, and I went on to hemodialysis for 2 months, and then they kind of sold me to peritoneal dialysis, and that really didn't work, and I got completely emaciated, and it really destroyed my health. And then I got back on hemodialysis at the end of 23 or 22, excuse me, and I've just been recovering ever since.
Mm.
That's
Yeah, wow.
basically my story. And Carnivore started with your group and your challenge in April of 23.
Nice. Well, I mean, that's crazy. So if people don't know, I mean, hemoglobin of 1.5, I mean, it's basically you don't have any blood left. And you do transfusions on someone, below a hemoglobin of 9 if they're symptomatic. And then sometimes, if it gets too far, if it gets that low or lower, you might just transfuse them anyway. So, 1.5 is extremely low. I mean, you want to be above, 12, 12 and a half, 13, 14 is a normal level. So you had essentially, 1/8 of the hemoglobin of the, that is the oxygen transport molecules in your blood, about 1/8 that you needed. And obviously that's very unsafe. And yeah, I'm not surprised your doctors were surprised that you were that you were even walking. Um, well, that's an incredible story. It's really, really sad to hear that you went through all of that. And I think that some of the things that we spoke about, in our group and everything like that, it was, got into more detail about how difficult that was. But how was it? How did you come to the carnivore diet, and what made you realize that this is something that you needed to change in your life?
So, how did I come to the carnivore diet? That's a really good question. I believe it was just research. I was online researching about, kidney health, um, and I found Ken Berry first,
Mhm.
and then I found you and Dr. Kiltz and kind of like the crew, you
Mhm.
know. And I just the fact that I knew that IgA nephropathy was autoimmune related. I realized that, basically that cutting I've tried it at this point I tried everything else. So I was like, okay, let's cut out everything. Let's do, lion diet, and let's see what I have, allergic, immunity to, that shows a response. And that was where it started. And I remember I went through like it was probably 6 months of like torture. Like I had like that when you were little, when you had like a growth in your legs, like that feeling of like you're getting nutrients, and your legs are growing, or maybe your bones are becoming more dense. I had that. I had like keto rash. I had oxalate dumping, detox, all of this stuff. But
Mhm.
yeah, I found it online, and I was like, I'm gonna give this a try, and so I did.
Yeah. And you were having some other issues as well, like neurological issues, is that right?
No, nothing really. I mean,
From like a
I
mood
have
perspective?
I would say neuropathy.
Yeah.
In my feet,
Hmm.
was really bad at the beginning. Just
Hmm.
like it just felt like they were just like, it's weird. It's like gloved feet that just you don't have any, just no sensation in,
Hmm.
numb and tingly, and just they don't feel quite right on your body.
Yeah. And so apart from the anemia and the kidney issues, what were some of the other problems that you faced when you were in the vegan side of things, trying to heal yourself by going, doubling down on raw vegan, then fruitarian and things like that?
Yeah, I didn't really have any symptoms until, well, that's not true. When I started the raw fruit diet, I
Mhm.
had a lot of gout,
Hmm.
and then that shifted. Um, but I was like in my own little like, low cholesterol molecule mind, and I was just like, I'm detoxing. Like this is
Hmm.
good. Like I'm having gout, and I'm having like undigested stools. This is just like, yeah. So the stools were definitely like doing all of that were very like loose, and I couldn't digest anything. So at the forefront of my problems with the veganism and the raw veganism was just like the gut,
Hmm.
and just not having a happy gut.
Yeah. Okay. I remember one of the discussions we had, if you're happy to talk about it, when you were sort of at the very end of the point that you were on veganism, that that you, I thought I remember you having some difficulty walking or using your phone or things like that. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, so when I was right before I went into the hospital,
Hmm.
I had developed like some swelling and
Hmm.
shortness of breath because I had moved to this ashram in Costa Rica where I was doing yoga and meditation, and it was high up in the mountains. And I was just like we were like, go, let's go on a walk, and I'd be like, okay, and then I was like struggling, like
Hmm.
I was at the back of the group, just we're just like walking, and we're just like walking up a hill, and so that was really where the symptoms started to manifest before I went into the hospital.
Hmm. Okay. And so when you decided to go carnivore, just did a hard switch. It wasn't, did you like slowly introduce meat or did you just go like raw vegan to just full carnivore?
I did. I say that I started in April because that
Mm.
was when I started with your group and started
Mm.
like strict carnivore, which moved into Lion for 8 months.
Mm.
But before that, in that February, I was doing a lot of dairy,
Mhm.
and cream and meat. But so yes, I had started like a little bit before there.
Okay.
But I'm allergic to, or I don't know if I'm allergic because I had an allergy test and it said I was fine to milk, but I have a response to it.
Mm.
So really, I just eat just meat, salt, and water now.
Yeah. And so how has that been? How when you switched to just meat, salt, and water, what were some of the changes and improvements you saw?
Well, the main one I think was just weight gain and just
Mhm.
giving myself what I needed as far as like nourishment to get myself back
Mhm.
to basically just standing upright. At this point, the peritoneal dialysis, which I had been on for 15 months, had gotten me to a wheelchair.
Yeah.
So essentially, I was going from a wheelchair to walking around the neighborhood with like a walker to
Mhm.
like hiking sticks to walking. So I was eating like big time for for probably a year. I was eating like three 16-ounce ribeyes a day,
Mhm.
breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so that was crucial at helping me get my strength back to just walk, as well as put on weight. I was 45 pounds lighter than I am now.
Oh,
So yeah.
yeah, that's huge. And so it's been a couple of years now, and how are you doing? What's life like now?
It's good. I'm able to I went to yoga this morning. I can go out and go on a walk. I can ride my bicycle. I go to the sauna a few times. Do some cold showers.
Hmm.
Um, Everything's a lot better. Yeah, I'm still having to go to dialysis. I have to go to dialysis Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and
Hmm.
that comes with its own set of complications and um, advocacy because I'm my own advocate, which unfortunately most people in the dialysis unit don't have any sort of advocacy or know how to help themselves, which is rough. And that's one of the things I really wanted to talk about is because
Hmm.
seeing people in dialysis, like a lot of people don't know like what goes on in there, and so just bringing a little bit of awareness to that. And besides just the fact that you have to go there 3 times a week and it takes out a huge chunk of your day, but I'm also grateful for it, and because it's keeping me alive, and it's life support.
Hey guys, just want to take a second to thank our sponsor, Carnivore Bar. I don't promote many products because honestly, all you need to be healthy is to just eat meat. For those times that you're out hiking, road tripping, or stuck at work and you want a nutritious snack that is just meat, fat, and salt if you want it, the Carnivore Bar is a great option. So I like this product not because it's just pure meat, but also because I want the carnivore market to thrive as well. And the more we support meat-only products, the more meat-only products there will be available in the mainstream. So if this sounds like something you'd like to get behind, check it out using my discount code Anthony to get 10% off, which also applies to subscriptions, giving you 25% off total. All right. Thanks, guys. All right. Well, can you tell us a bit about that? Because I don't think many people really understand, what goes on in dialysis and how serious of an issue it is. Like you say, even just from a time perspective, it can be several hours, 3 days a week, and that's a huge commitment as well.
Yeah, so for me, I leave my house at 11 and I usually get back around like 3:34.
Mhm.
So it's that's 3 days a week. So those days are basically kaput.
Mhm.
And so most people in the dialysis unit are there because they have diabetes. And that's most of the patients that you'll see in there. And the most unfortunate thing is that these diabetic patients, they are still sitting next to me and drinking Coke and eating
Mhm.
crackers. And
Jeez.
they're also so they're getting their feet. I see all the stages. I see the feet like starting to kind of get like gnarled and like kind of like nasty, and then they get their toes cut off, and then they get their foot at their ankle cut off, and then it's like the knee, and that's really they just keep eating sugar, and the doctors just are like coming around and doing the rounds and just observing this. And then on top of that, it's just because of the dialysis process being so intense on the body, is just, mineral and vitamin deficiency, not having proper nutrition and proper supplementation for, what they're basically putting their bodies through. So most people that go into dialysis, they just get worse and worse slowly. Um, I'm I'm grateful and thankful that I've been able to become stronger as a in dialysis, and to kind of come through a dark time when I was on the peritoneal dialysis.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, you had IgA nephropathy, which is a very specific reason why you had kidney failure. It wasn't like it was the diabetes that can be, reversible necessarily. But have you ever spoken to some of the patients or even the doctors and said, hey, you got all these, diabetes is the number one cause of kidney failure. And this is something that can be reversed, if you just do like even it doesn't have to be a full carnivore diet, just a ketogenic diet, or even just carbohydrate restriction, therapeutic carbohydrate restriction if they want to be fancy and still feel like they're using medical terminology. Have you had that conversation with anyone? Is anybody receptive to that?
Yeah, I've had that conversation with. So when your care team is basically have a dietitian,
Hmm.
so they come around and they're like, and they totally, what they promote. They give you a sheet. It's a plant-based diet. It's
Yeah.
all plant. It's all
Already
plants.
did that. Didn't work. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes, I've definitely had conversations, and you know, they hear me and they take it in, but it's really just in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. That's unfortunate. That's especially unfortunate because of the diabetes side of things. That's hard data now. I mean, we have studies that have shown causation and reversibility of diabetes with ketogenic diets. Virta Health published that study years ago, and now that's been put into practice. And you're looking at Virta Health themselves have documented over 25,000 reversals of diabetes, type 2 diabetes. And I've seen that. I mean, every single patient that I have that had type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes or just insulin resistance, every single one, they adopt these measures and it goes away. And I was speaking with Dr. Eric Westman, who's over on your side of the states over at Duke. He's a professor of medicine at Duke. And I asked him, I was just like, he's been doing this for 25 years. And it's like, is there a certain cohort that this wouldn't be applicable to, that this wouldn't work for? And he's like, no, this works for everybody. It works for everybody in this way. And, so just, be reassured that if you do this, it will work. It may take, a longer time for some people, but it will work in this way. And, and just hopefully you stop the damage before it's become so severe that that you have so permanent issues. Because once you get onto dialysis, it's said that you can never get off of it. I've seen you self-reported cases of three people coming off dialysis, but that would have been more of the diabetic issues, not like IgA nephropathy. Um, with you, I think you were telling me at one point you were still making urine, and that you actually saw some of the an improvement in your urine output. Has that improved at all your kidney function at all since going carnivore?
No, it hasn't.
Yeah,
Um,
stayed pretty much.
the thing that's really improved the most is just like the rest of my body,
Yeah.
has really um, come a long way.
Okay.
Like my mom and sister, they had to care for me because I had kind of lost. This was when at the end of being on peritoneal dialysis, and I
Hmm.
had become emaciated, and they were living with me because I couldn't really use my hands. I was like tripping and falling, and they thought they thought I was a goner. They were
Yeah.
like they thought they were going to lose me. So just getting back my body, has been the biggest thing that I've found with like carnivore and
Mm.
making sure I eat meat
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I did have I had a really crazy thing happen. It was in
Mm.
like August. I had worms
Mm.
just out of nowhere.
Mhm.
I think they had been in me for a while, and my body had just kind of gotten to the point where it had enough energy to deal with them.
Mhm.
And yeah, I got rid of those on the carnivore, and then interesting thing that happened after that is that I had like meat aversion
Mm.
for like a couple months.
Yeah.
So
Well.
that yeah, so that took me through an interesting time. But I've definitely just seen a lot of healing on the carnivore diet.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. I mean, from what you were saying there, that sounds like things were really tough. At the end of the peritoneal dialysis, you're saying that your hands weren't really working and you were in a wheelchair. Um, what was that like? What was your life like before you actually made the switch to
Oh
carnivore?
my gosh, it was rough. I was like literally going to my dialysis doctor and being like, "What is wrong with me?" Like, you know, and he's like, one of the things that they do is they just look at the blood, right? So they're like, "Well, based on this, we're adequately clean. You're getting adequate cleaning of your blood, and everything else looks pretty good." And I'm just like, "No, like I'm getting worse and worse and worse." So it was really brutal. I had to actually make the decision myself, and I had to go in there and be like, you guys have to switch me to hemo. Like I wasn't advised. I was just like, I was just I was like, it's got to be the dialysis because the peritoneal dialysis, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but what basically the dextrose sugar water solution comes into your peritoneal cavity, and it sits in there for about an hour or two. It saturates toxins and pulls fluid across the peritoneal membrane, so you can get the fluid off your body, and then it exits out. And I was doing that all night. I was hooked up to a machine that would basically fill my cavity with sugar water for 2 hours, dump it, fill it, dump it, fill it, dump it, and that dialysis didn't work. So I saw myself go from being really rough coming back from Costa Rica, with like lots of swelling and edema and things like that, but being like okay with like walking, and I was producing more urine at that time as well, to basically just 15 months of just going downhill. And
Mm.
I was even doing a transplant evaluation at the end of that time. It was December of 22, and they were like, "You have to get better." Like, I had recently had some blood transfusions and stuff like that as well. So they were like, "You can't do this." So it took me. That was like 2 years, and um, I'm now more fit for transplant.
Yeah. Great.
And I attribute that to carnivore and
Yeah.
eating, you know, proper human diet.
Yeah, well, I mean, even just going to from the point that you weren't really able to use your hands. I remember one time when we were speaking, you were saying that it was at that point it was difficult for even you, for you to use your phone because your hands were it was so difficult to use your hands, and being in a wheelchair. And then we saw you in the group, over the course of months, started getting a little bit better and a little bit better, and being able to go to PT and getting stronger and doing more and more,
That's
which
right.
was fantastic to see. Have you more or less healed at this point from that standpoint? Are you able to do most things normally, exercise wise?
Yes, I am. The
Right.
craziest thing that I didn't even realize that I had was just like the worst gait. Like
Mm,
my walk was just like I felt like it was fine, but people were like my physical therapists were like, "Well, we really should have taken a before and after of that."
mm,
So, yeah, I mean, I can go like I feel more normal now than ever. Like I can walk several miles a day.
right.
And yeah,
Oh, really good. Yeah. So, well, that's great. Well, I'm really glad to hear that you have a donor lined up as well. So is there are they still doing testing for that, or to see if it's a proper match, or what
yeah,
stage you at now?
yeah. So she is getting her workup at the end of February,
Hmm.
and I actually have um,
Oh,
two donors. So yeah, but she's doing her workup at the end of February, and then they have a kidney pool. Are you familiar with this? Where she doesn't actually have to be like my match and I like take her
wow.
kidney. She can actually give her kidney to the pool, and then I would get somebody else's kidney that is more suited for me. So
Wow.
she's agreed to like give her kidney to the pool if she's not like an exact match.
Right. Okay. That's clever. And so, you could sort of, yeah, at least help people get better matches. It doesn't have to be just a perfect match for you. It might be a perfect match for someone else, and then someone else might be a perfect or a more suitable match for you. Uh,
Yeah, she'll get somebody else. Somebody else would get her kidney if
mm,
it wasn't a match for me.
yeah, exactly. Oh, very good. Well, it's great that you found that. Hopefully, that all goes smoothly, and no more dialysis, which would be great.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, since since you started this, I know it's hard to tell, but um, have you seen any changes? Like even did your kidneys continue to get worse over the past couple of years, or did it sort of level off after you changed to carnivore?
Just looking at the creatinine in the bun, it's just basically stayed the same.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's one of those things, we talk about on a carnivore diet that sometimes things can help, but sometimes, there's damage that's already been done that the body can't recover from. And it would be interesting to see if other people that had IgA nephropathy were to try this earlier on, could that halt it and make it so they didn't have such severe damage to their kidneys in the first place? We don't know. It's just an important question to ask, and that would suggest that if your kidney function is getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, and then sort of levels off at this point, it may be that someone in the future trying this could find that. Have you spoken to anybody else? Are you in kidney groups and things like that?
I'm not in any kidney groups, but I do believe that starting a carnivore diet earlier would have been beneficial and
Mhm.
would have staved off damage to
Mhm.
later in my life. Um, so my transplant workup is I'm doing it at Mayo, which
Okay.
is like a center of excellence, which is one of the things that I've learned on this journey is that not all hospitals are the same.
Mm.
And I've
Definitely.
experienced that like into the southeast of the United States, like South Carolina. I hate to say this, but South Carolina hospitals are the worst. Like
Mm.
I would never do anything in South Carolina except like go because my arm was broken or something like that. I wouldn't do any sort of cancer treatment or anything like that. So
Mm.
um, I've been stepping it up. I was like my first hospital I went to. about my kidney stuff was in South Carolina, and then Virginia was night and day, as far as quality care. And then the Mayo Clinic in Florida is like has been the next level. And the nephrologist that I met at the Mayo Clinic, I mean, they are so on top of everything. Like he looks at all my notes and basically gave me the best summary of my kidney disease life that anybody has ever done. So I was thoroughly impressed with them. And then he was like, "Hey, we actually have drugs now for IgA nephropathy. So there's actually drugs that once they catch it, and if you go and you have IgA nephropathy, that it can be delayed for your entire life."
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no one else told you that.
No one else told me that. Well, they're new. They've only been around for like the last 5 years. The IgA is what they're
Well,
saying. But
5 years, like you had this 5 years ago. So someone,
yeah,
oh, that's unfortunate. I saw that. Yeah, I've definitely seen that as well. Doctors are not doctors are not doctors, and hospitals are not hospitals are not hospitals. You see a wide disparity in the treatment that people get. There's a good book about that actually from Dr. Atul Gawande, who's a professor of surgery at Harvard and works at Brigham's Women's Hospital in Massachusetts. And so he wrote this book called Better, and it's basically the compare, how to get better, how to improve, and comparing these different groups, these treatment groups. They treat the same thing ostensibly, but they do it very differently, and they get very different results. And you do have to look into that. When I was at Duke during my final year of medical school, doing my sub internship there, that was a center of excellence. That year was ranked the number 4 hospital in America at the time, which basically means it's going to be top 5 or 10 in the world, and it was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. I was doing plastics, reconstructive, and maxillofacial surgery, and we had all the cases that some came from South Carolina, but came from other rural areas in North Carolina as well and elsewhere because they were people that had some major traumas, major issues, and they went to one facility and they tried it and it didn't work. And so you got bumped up to the next facility and they tried a reoperation and it didn't work. And so sometimes it would get bumped down the line until it got to us. And we might be doing the fourth reoperation on something. So it's just a massive scar tissue and damage. And we were there for 16 hours just peeling through scar tissue, but the people there were so skilled and so experienced and so determined. They were not going to leave until the job was done, until
wow,
until they got the result. And so, I never actually saw a failed case that was just like, oh, just throw our hands up and be like, yeah, this best we can do. It's just not going to work. They made sure things happened and got the result that was needed. So it was, yeah, it was quite a good experience there as well. I'm glad that you found, a center like that also.
yeah. I would say to anybody that's like looking for a surgery or dealing with some sort of heavy medical situation, to seek out a center of excellence.
Hmm.
Because I mean, one of the things that I've also seen is just, you know, and this is in like the prostate cancer world, is you have, this is in Virginia, you have, different doctors, and like, you know, if you go to this one doctor and he's not up to date with all of the new technology and the new types of surgeries and the new literature and all that stuff, he might just be selling prostate surgery, the only one that he knows that's in his bag, from like 2005.
Yeah.
So it's like there's that's out there, and that's freaking scary because I mean, you people don't know. They're freaked out. They're going in. They're like, hey, I've my prostate symptoms are up, and I'm looking to get this surgery, and like, what do we do? And that's what this doctor does. So that's like, he doesn't tell you to go anywhere else or looking at, he's like, I got this one. And then, so if you go to a center of excellence, at least you're going to have more options and things like that.
Yeah, and at least, then if you're faced with certain options, you can be, fairly certain that this is these are the available options. It's not like there's something that they just don't know about. And we saw that as well. Had family member that was dealing with a cancer diagnosis, and Seattle has centers of excellence, and especially in cancer care. And but they had this sort of specific treatments that they had that weren't really going well. And I happened to be at Duke doing my sub-I at the time. And I spoke to them about this. Was there something that my department helped from a surgical standpoint? I sort of asked them about that, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we can get that on a meeting, and we can talk about this." And the oncologists and people were like, "Yeah, actually, that there's actually other things that are available to this as well that even the people here in Seattle didn't know about. Even though Fred Hutchinson and Cancer Care Alliance are excellent cancer services." There's just something that these guys knew about. It's always a good idea to get second opinions and things like that, because someone may have come across something else that works better, or something else that other people haven't, and if you you're not being rude to someone just by seeing if everybody agrees on this, and going to another center of excellence, or to a center of excellence in the first place, and saying, "Hey, what do you think?" Could be the exact same thing that the other guy was recommending, but at least you have more information now. And when it comes to your health, there's no room to muck about. Like you just have to be your own advocate. As you said, you have to take care of yourself. Um, you have to be your own cheerleader, making sure you get the best care. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like you're doing that too, which is great.
I'm trying. I mean, my biggest fight right now is just with the dialysis clinic.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
know, they have, on these machines, these dialysis machines, they have different modes that do different things. They have like one that just takes off fluid, one that cleans your blood, and then one that cleans your blood and takes off fluid. And I've found for me that like a combination of the different ones are best, but they don't, it's a fight for the doctor. The doctors want you to like stay in clean mode and run for a certain amount of hours, and so that's a
Mm.
constant battle. And then the medication too, like all of the medication that's given is given on, like, especially for the kidneys produce the erythropoietin hormone, which basically triggers the bone marrow to release red blood cells. So when your kidneys are down like mine are now, I have to have exogenous, hormone. So I get that in the shot every 2 weeks, and that is based on an algorithm. So for basically the first year that I was at this clinic in South Carolina, see, the thing for me is I've been at a clinic when I was living in Virginia, and then I've lived in South Carolina, so I've seen just the good side and the bad side of the different clinics. But yeah, so the medication schedule is on an algorithm. And basically what was happening is like every 3 months is I would get my hemoglobin up to a certain level, and then they would cut the amount of medication based on the algorithm. And then I would like fall to like 8.2, and I would basically feel like shit for a month
Mm.
because of that. And then I was like, listen, dude, I gotta have, you know, more of this medication because I don't want to slump down to low hemoglobin because it makes me feel like crap.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's some advocacy there. It's like between the machine functioning, medicate making sure I get the medication that I need. And the thing is, I feel like I'm the only one that says anything, in my clinic. Everybody else is just kind of out of it, it seems like. So that's been, yeah, that's been one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry to hear that. That's so yeah, I mean that yeah, I mean if you need it, why are they fighting with you about doing things that work for you? Why are they just want this is the way they do it and that's it? They're not getting input on
It,
the how
it's
that's working for
it's
you?
it's corporate. It's
Okay.
they want people to run um a certain length of time, and in a certain functionality on that machine, so that they feel like they are um, I, I doing what they're supposed to. South Carolina has been the most difficult. Like in Virginia, they were like super cool. They were like, "Oh yeah, whatever you need. Oh, you're not feeling good." Because what happens on the machine if I don't go into the modes and the functionality that I like, I get crazy cramps. Like I
Mm,
get really bad, like have abdominal cramps and things like that. Um, so yeah, it's all about corporate, like the corporate. I guess the South Carolina corporation is different than the Virginia. Um, and I actually talked to a lawyer about like all of the things that I was kind of going through. And he said, I was like, I mean, do I have any, like, is there any chance for like a civil lawsuit here or anything like that? He's like, unless you have damages. And I was just like, and I was like, what? He's like, somebody needs to die,
mm,
basically, for you to be able to sue these guys and have any sort of case
mm.
against just the way you're being like treated and stuff like that.
Hey everyone, really happy to announce a new sponsor for the show and for everybody down in Australia, Stockman Steaks, who are delivering high quality grass fed and finished pasture raised beef and other meats, flash frozen and vacuum sealed to your door, something that I've been enjoying a lot of myself recently as well. They also have a great range of specialty items such as high fat keto mince and carnivore beef and organs mince with liver, kidneys, and beef heart as well. So use code Chaffee today for a free order of beef mince or another specialty gift along with your order at stockmansteaks.com.au, and I'll see you over there. Thanks, guys. Yeah, you would hope that just being miserable and feeling sick all the time, I mean, I don't know why that wouldn't be considered damage. The pain and suffering side of things, you're suffering and you're in pain, and this is making your life more difficult. Whereas like if they just, did this properly, that wouldn't happen. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I guess the thing is, according to them,
Mhm.
it's the way that I want to do it is improper
Okay.
compared to,
Yeah.
and I'm like, this is might be improper, but it makes me feel better.
Yeah.
Like I can get my treatment in, I can get off the fluid I need to get off. But like when I'm doing it how they want me to do it, I don't get like as much fluid off, and it's a fight.
So do you know why that would be? Like if there's if there's a setting for it to do both at the same time, is it like you want it longer so they can bill more or something like that? Or what do you think that is? Or they just don't believe you that you feel like crap?
I don't know if it's about billing or it's just about the goals and the guidelines of the corporation.
Hmm.
I think they want every patient to basically fall under um, their guidelines that
Hmm.
they've set forth. So I don't necessarily blame the PA and the nurses there. I
Hmm.
think it's coming from like above.
Right.
So they don't want to have that fight with above. So
Yeah. And it's probably limited on the different dialysis clinics that are in your area, probably, so you can't really shop around.
yeah, no, you can't. But if I need to I was like, it's kind of funny that we're talking about this, but
Mhm.
I was actually thinking about like, oh, maybe I'll go to Virginia, for a couple weeks and, get dialysis up there and like get myself like feeling better
Mm,
because um it's just been a struggle here.
yeah. Yeah, that's a shame. Can you do that? Do you have like
Yeah, you
family?
can go and you can go and you can transfer. So like my parents live in Tampa, so I'll go down there.
Mhm.
They're a little bit more cool clinic down
Mm,
there, and then also Virginia as well. I have family up there, so I can go up there for like a couple weeks and you know, yeah, get treatment.
yeah. So is the Mayo down in Tampa then? Is that where you go see them?
It's in Jacksonville.
Jacksonville. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so, yeah, that might be an option. Obviously, if you have, work and commitments in South Carolina, that can't do that forever, but
yeah,
yeah, hopefully you can figure something out to get a better situation because obviously, it doesn't sound like that's giving you the treatment.
No, it doesn't give me the warm, happy feeling. But what
Mhm.
does is that I'm close. Like we
Yeah.
with the workup of this lady at the end of February and
Okay.
potential transplant in March. I'm just kind of trying to be patient and hang on.
Yeah. Yeah. And then is the Mayo Clinic going to be doing the transplant down in Florida, or where is that going to happen?
Yeah,
Okay.
the Mayo. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. So you're getting that.
I mean I
Good.
mean so I'm on the list at UVA and at Mayo. And
Okay.
then I was going to do Wake Forest, which is, super close to Duke.
Hmm.
But one of the things that I've noticed is just, man, the professionalism at Mayo is insane. Insane. They actually put a stent also in your, in your, I guess it's your, I don't think it's your urethra. I think it's like the ureter
Yeah.
maybe that connects down to the urethra. But they put an extra stent in there for healing that that UVA doesn't do. So like
Mhm.
just a few little techniques and things that you see offered at a center of excellence that you don't necessarily see at just another hospital.
Yeah, sometimes you see it at other hospitals, like at centers of excellence. They do everything that's well, they do a lot of things that are the best to get the best treatment for someone. Where other hospitals they might do just good enough treatment. It's like, it's good enough, and that's
Yeah,
good. You don't need it. You're not gonna die. Just do this, and
yeah,
yeah, I think that doing the right thing is the right thing as opposed to just it's good enough.
yeah. Like Mayo, they did like infectious disease testing, and remember I was telling you when we were talking. I don't know how long it's been, but I was having like some dried blood kind
Mhm.
of come up like in my lungs. And you were like, yeah, get a CT, check it out. And I did it, it didn't show anything, but that's recently gotten worse.
Mhm.
So I've actually had more like cherry red blood kind of coming up
Mhm.
and stuff like that. So Mayo's like, hey, we'll get you down here as soon as possible for like a pulmonary, exam. So but they took me off the list temporarily because they want to check it out and
Right.
make sure that it's coming from the kidney disease and not they're not going to transplant you if you've got like something else going on like a cancer or MS or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully it's nothing. I mean, I suppose if you're getting fluid overloaded, then, that can get into your lungs, and you can get a bit of bleeding from that. Usually, it's not like frank red blood, but it's more like a pinky sort of sputum and things like that. But um,
Yeah, it is it's funny, man. I was eating eggs and I cut out eggs
mm,
and the red has gone way down.
oh well.
So I think I have a immune reaction to eggs.
Yeah. Well, you have these sort of autoimmune issues in general. Probably good to just cut out everything except the red meat and water, and just not muck about, and
Yeah, that's where I am.
yeah. All right, man. Well, I really hope that it sounds like things are getting better. You're going from not being able to use your hands and being in a wheelchair to where you are now is obviously a massive improvement. And there's this light at the end of the tunnel for a kidney transplant. So, really wish you the best for that. And I hope that goes
Thank you.
really well. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for telling your story. I know it's not always easy to talk about very personal things, but I really appreciate you coming on and telling everybody this, and hopefully this makes sense to somebody else who's seeing this, and it helps them out in some way. And I'm sure it will, because there are a lot of people out there that are suffering. So thank you very much for sharing your story.
Yeah, of course. And then if the people that hear it, maybe they know someone that's on dialysis,
Yeah.
and that can help them.
Yeah, especially like diabetic patients that are on dialysis, because that's diabetes is completely reversible. Type 2
Yeah.
diabetes is completely reversible, and with just very simple lifestyle changes, and even type 1 is very manageable and controllable, and you can get just perfectly level blood sugar levels, and insulin dosages are not a question anymore, and you stop getting all the damage from too much insulin or too much blood sugar or too little blood sugar and getting hypoglycemic. So it's something that can really help. So yeah, so if anybody does know anybody like that, please do share it with them. Brandon, thank you so much. Where can people find you, follow you, and support you?
Yeah, so my Instagram is really the only thing that I have. It's Kosi, Kosei at sorry, it's KOSI underscore DAS, DAS. So it's at Kosi DAS. And thank you, Doc. I mean, you've been doing so much in this field for so long, and like I said, you were the first one that I kind of started with and joined the group. And I don't know where I'd be without you and your direction with Carnivore. And so I really just appreciate you. I know you do a lot for this community, and you know, thank you.
Well, thanks, man, and you're very welcome. I'm glad that. Well, I'm really glad that this helped you and that you're doing as well as you are, and yeah, I just hope that things just get better and better, and just hopefully more and more people come to this. It's like I don't I don't get anything out of this except like the satisfaction of people getting better. And I may get ads from YouTube, but who cares? Like the main thing is just people are getting better, and it's free. You don't need supplements, you don't need to buy anything. Just spend your money on meat, and it's like, yeah, there's so many things that people have to spend on, this different medication or this or that or whatever. It's like just spend that on meat, and you'd break it, you'd be spending less and be getting more for it. So yeah, hopefully this just keeps moving. I think it will. I think that more and more people are coming to it, and that as evidenced by the fact that you just keep getting these hit pieces, coming out more and more. Oh, red meat's gonna kill you. Ooh, watch out for this carnivore diet. And, someone who is eating 9 pounds of cheese a day. They got some weird things on their hands. It's like, yeah, well, don't eat 9 pounds of cheese a day. Maybe start with that. And so ridiculous. And these are the same people, all the vegans are all saying, using that's a real, it's not a case report, but it's interesting pictures, 150 words or less. So it's not even a full case report. It's just like, yeah, this guy says he did a carnivore diet, says he ate 6 to 9 pounds of cheese, meat, and eggs or whatever a day, and lost weight, and but got this, like, fatty deposits on his palms and things like that. And so all these vegans are saying, "Oh my God, look at this! This is the consequences of a carnivore diet." Literally, if this was so common, it wouldn't be in the freaky, weird, crazy picture category of JAMA. And and these are all the people that are saying, "Well, all these benefits from carnivore, they're just anecdotal, millions of positive anecdotes." And then they're taking this, but that's all anecdotal. But then there's this one guy who has, saying he's eating 9 pounds of cheese and meat a day, um, and losing weight. Um, that his weird hand changes. Well, that's just indicative of just everybody who ever tries carnivore, and they're just like going off about how significant that is, this one case, and yet the millions of people doing this and getting improvements, that's anecdotal. It just you can see the con, and they're just con artists. They're just trying to make money, banking on the vegan propaganda. They're getting paid to say this stuff. They're selling different whatevers, and they make a lot of money pushing the whole vegan agenda. And whether they get paid by corporations or not, they make a lot of money pushing this nonsense. And I guarantee you that most of them aren't vegan themselves. Like, Simon Hill has openly said he eats eggs and other sorts of things, and he probably eats a lot more than that too. So he's saying that look at me, I'm a shining example of veganism. Like, sorry, buddy, you're not vegan. You talk about how you're not vegan, how you eat eggs. In your book, you talk about how much you like oysters and things like that. So, don't go around telling people that you're an example of healthy veganism when you're not a damn vegan. Like, and then using these one-off examples that are probably not true, because no one's eating 9 pounds of meat and cheese a day, and if you are, you shouldn't be.
Yeah,
And
no.
and saying that this is a typical example of people going carnivore. It's just a complete nonsense. So I think that that's just a clear sign that, we're winning with this, and they're getting desperate and just trying to as hard as they can to just talk trash about it, but it's not working. And because this does work. And
Yeah,
so, yeah, so hopefully people see this and get further inspiration.
absolutely.
Right. Well, thanks, man. Really appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Doc.
And thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. Please do leave a comment, like, and subscribe if you haven't already. Follow Brandon on Instagram at cozy_DOS, KOSI_DAS, and see more of him there. And please do share this with anyone you think could be helped by it. Thank you all very much. We'll see you next time. Hey guys, thank you very much for taking the time out to listen to what I had to say. If you like it, then please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel and podcast. And if you're on YouTube, then please hit that little bell and subscribe, and that'll let you know anytime I have a new video out, which should be every week, if not more. And if you could share this with your friends, that would help me get the word out and let me know that you like what I'm doing. Thanks again, guys.